Hey and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Preston and I work as a professional recruiter in the technology industry. Recruiting is an awesome field because with a little determination and effort, anyone can get started in it relatively quickly. No schooling or lengthy training required. This is because recruiting is similar to a sales role. It's all about how you present yourself and the opportunity you're offering. As we find ourselves in the midst of the so-called Great Resignation, many newcomers are turning to independent recruiting as an alternate source of income. All this isn't to say that recruiting isn't an easy job, just like sales. It can be extremely difficult and requires patience and persistence. In this video though, I'm going to discuss several common mistakes many recruiters make. Everybody makes mistakes now and then, so it's important to learn from them and move on. However, if you're interested in becoming a successful recruiter, there are some basic common mistakes newcomers make that can be easily avoided as long as you're aware of them. But before we get started, as always, please consider liking, subscribing, clicking that bell. It's completely free and really means a lot. Don't become complacent. It can be easy to become tired and jaded after reading similar resumes or cover letters over and over and over again. This leads to a negative attitude that will have an effect on how you see candidates. Try to look at every candidate as if they're your very first one and treat them like it. Operate with a sense of urgency. This is a competitive market, so speed is the name of the game. Reach out to as many candidates as possible, and when you find a great one, get the process started immediately. You can avoid a bidding war by getting them an offer faster, beating out slower competing companies. Always be timely in response to your candidates and clients to keep the momentum going. And don't forget to send out a reminder if things start to stagnate. Don't take on too much. On the other hand, while it is important to cast a wide net and be in contact with many different clients and candidates, know your limit. Recruiters already have many responsibilities, but in the middle of everything, it can be super easy to overcommit yourself. Taking time to step back and analyze your schedule and organizational routine will allow you to trim excess fat and hopefully reduce some of the pressures that comes with the job. Don't rely on a single candidate or client. Always be reaching out to form new relationships, so you will always have a diverse range of opportunities available to you. Putting all of your eggs in one basket is risky. There's always the chance that they will become difficult to work with. If a client starts to avoid or ghosts you, refuses to provide feedback, or even shuts down the candidates for no reason, you want to have other prospects available to you. Don't be a generalist. If you're a solo, independent recruiter, avoid recruiting for every single position and instead hone in on a specific niche. Become an expert on one or two markets and a few positions max so you know everything about them. By doing so, you'll understand what professionals in that market do and what tools they use, and ultimately you'll have a better idea of what to look for when screening and communicating with candidates. If you only have a surface level understanding of many different markets or positions, you won't be able to answer specific questions about the roles, and you'll even lose credibility and come off as unprepared and professional to both candidates and hiring managers. Don't wait for perfection. Nobody's perfect, and there's no such thing as the perfect candidate. Unfortunately, there's just no way of knowing whether or not a candidate will work out in a position, so there's always a bit of risk involved in placing a candidate. There are, however, some green flags you can look for to help choose the best candidates from your pool. For instance, if they are frequently responsive and open to committing to a hiring timeline, this might be a candidate to keep in mind. Don't forget to know your candidate. Many new recruiters are so focused on the position itself, they forget to take the candidate into account. This can lead to a miscommunication of priorities and a misunderstanding of what the candidate is actually looking for, potentially resulting in a misplaced employee. Make sure you truly understand the candidate by taking the time to learn what's important to them in a role, what kind of responsibilities they're looking for, and their expectations going into a new role. Avoid asking predictable questions that lead to uninspired canned answers. Take time to craft questions that go beyond the basic greatest weaknesses or biggest challenges at work. By keeping the candidate on their toes and making them think a bit, you can just learn as much from how they handle the situation as from their answer. Don't send irrelevant offers. It happens a lot. You are excited to see that you've received a message on LinkedIn that contains a potential job opportunity. You open it only to find that it's completely irrelevant to you and your qualifications. Whether it's sending irrelevant jobs to candidates or irrelevant candidates to managers, it's a waste of time. Sure, sourcing is all about numbers and reach, but reaching out to the wrong people is unhelpful to you and annoying to whoever is on the other side. Do thorough research on the position and make sure every contact you make, either to the client or candidate, is relevant. Avoid templates and generic emails. Don't send generic boilerplate emails. Personalize your outreach. It's a known fact that people respond well to personalization. The recruiting industry is more competitive than ever, so it's tempting to fall back on templates. But if you customize your outreach to the specific candidates and convey a genuine interest in them and their abilities, the chance that you'll get a response is much, much higher. Technology allows for things like mass emailing to potential candidates, but take a step back and think this may be a good way to reach a lot of people, but the chances that they're irrelevant or the position is irrelevant to them is very high. Don't misrepresent the position. It's not worth it to embellish your lie. Be honest and forthcoming, and the candidate and client will be interested in working with you again for the long term. In particular, avoid inflating the salaries when submitting. Many see this as a standard practice in the industry, but I avoid it. I get it. A bigger salary means a bigger commission, but you run the risk of getting caught. It could leave a bad taste in the client's mouth, and they may not want to work with you anymore in the future. I prefer to take a smaller commission but build trust with the client through transparency and authenticity. Still, you do have to sell the candidate on the position. Don't come to a candidate unprepared or with basic information. This is boring, and the candidate won't be interested in even considering taking the job. In many cases, the candidate hasn't heard of the company you're presenting them. Think in terms of what really interests the candidate: culture, work-life balance, diversity, etc., while also including integral information like the background of the company, its founders, their funding stage, as well as their performance and key successes. Keep the process moving. In such a competitive field, you want to avoid stagnation at all costs. Keep the process moving forward and stay in constant contact with your candidates. Nobody likes going through a long, drawn-out interview process, so the faster you can get them to an offer, there is a less chance that your candidate will take a different one no matter how much they might like yours. Make sure you communicate a clear timeline to everyone involved in the hiring process, from the client to the candidate. One of the biggest mistakes new recruiters make is leaving everyone in the dark about their process. Nobody likes this, and they will lose interest without a clear sense of direction. Make sure you're clear about when you'll be following up with them with your contacts, and obviously do your best to maintain those times. Consider also getting stakeholders involved in the hiring process. Sit down with the hiring manager and make sure they lay out just who is involved. Be sure to loop them in and keep them in the know when there are any major updates involved. Don't forget to provide feedback. Providing feedback to the candidate after the interview. It can be easy to want to quickly move on to the next candidate, but take some time to think about them for a moment. Interviewing is a tough process that takes some work and can be very stressful. It will mean a lot if you take some time out of your schedule to reach out to them. Getting in touch with applicants, even if they don't get the job, goes a long way in building trust and credibility. Candidates will appreciate the opportunity to reflect and improve on their interview performance. That just about wraps up this video on several common mistakes recruiters make, especially newcomers who are just starting out. Can you think of a common mistake that I didn't bring up today? Drop down below, would love to hear from you. If you also enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, clicking that bell. It really means a lot. Please also consider following me at Preston_Park, as I try my best to also post daily. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.